I'm really, really nervous, and it never fails that no matter where I go, I get extremely nervous. I'm not sure if it's the fear of speaking in public or the fear of not making a connection. But before we get started, I must thank Miss Lisa at my table because she said, you're not wearing green, so she gave me her scarf. So please, no one get mad at Lisa if she's not wearing green now, because she sacrificed so that I can have this beautiful scarf on me. My name is Roy Waters Jr. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio. Thank you very much. But when I graduated college, I started this crazy journey that I thought would only last 6 months. And the journey I started was when I crossed that stage and I grabbed my diploma, the first thing I thought was, how did I get so lucky? I'm not sure if you know this group, it's called Five for Fighting, and they have a song called Chances. And that song, I'm not even sure what it says. All I know is the very beginning, and it says, chances are, when said and done, who will be the lucky ones to make it all the way? And the reason that touched me so much is because I thought, how did I go from being homeless in the streets of San Antonio to becoming a college graduate? And I thought, well, what about all the other homeless teenagers that were like me? What about them? So I had this crazy idea that I was going to live homeless again for the second time. And I was going to live out of my car, and I was going to drive from LA to Jacksonville, Florida, and I was going to speak for free at any high school, middle school, shelter, organization, any place that would open up their doors. And I was going to go in and I was going to tell these young people my story with the hope that they would be inspired to not give up. Now, why I thought I would be the speaker, I don't know, because again, as I said, I get extremely, extremely nervous. But I've always told myself, never allow fear to keep you from doing what you believe in. And what I believed in was that I wanted to reach young kids who were just like me. And I remember the first school that I went to in LA. I get to LA and I have about 30 students. I'm at Ochi High School and I'm sharing my story. And after the presentation, this young man comes up to me and he goes, hey, sir, can I talk to you? I'm like, yeah, man, did you enjoy the presentation? He goes, nah, sir, come here. And I'm in East LA, so I'm like, hey, bro, we're good, right? Like we're cool. He says, come here. So we step off to the side. I said, well, what's going on? He goes, that story you told me, is it even true? I said, yeah, man, I said, it's true. He said, sir, I'm asking you, sir. I'm asking you because your story is my story. Is it true? I said, it's true. He said, well, then I have one question for you. I said, well, what is it? He said, how much money do you make off this? And when I heard him ask that question, I knew what he was really asking. He wasn't asking how much money did I make. What he was really saying was, man, sir, you got me, sir. Sir, you got me, but sir, you better be here because you're here for me and not because you're banking off of this. And I knew how he felt because I remember the first family who took me in at 14 years old and they said, Roy, we love you like a son. And at 14 years old, when your mother leaves you and your father leaves you and nobody wants to take you in, and finally someone says, we love you like a son. Man, I was 14 years old. I believed him. And I remember that my birthday came and they said, Roy, happy birthday. And I couldn't believe that this family had even known my birthday. So I thought to myself, man, they have to love me like a son. They didn't know my birthday. But 2 weeks later, when their son had a birthday, man, he had a cake. And he had candles, and he had balloons, and he had presents. So at 14 years old, I stood back and I thought, man, they don't love me like a son. Those were just words that they were telling me. And I started to build these walls and push away all the people who wanted to help me because I said no one was going to hurt me like that again. And this is exactly what I saw in this young man. I said, hey man, you want to know the truth? He said, yeah, sir, how much money do you make off this? I said, dude, I tried to get sponsors. I tried to get sponsors for this tour that I was calling the Homeless by Choice Tour. And everybody said no. So if you want to know the truth, I have $16 in my pocket and I don't even know where I'm sleeping tonight. And he said, for real, sir? I said, for real. And it changed the way that he received the message. And he was like, wow, sir, that's awesome, sir, that's awesome. And I said to myself, I don't need any sponsors. How hard can this be? I've been homeless before. Not knowing that 3 months into the 6-month journey, it was going to cost me right under $20,000 to live homeless by choice. And I started to sell everything that I could just to make enough money to put towards gas to get to one more school, one more shelter, one more organization. And whatever I had left, I put it into my friend's storage. I was living out of this car, crossing the country, and then by the time I got to Texas, I thought I can't do this anymore. Because I was having to relive the hell that I experienced days, sometimes several times a day. And I couldn't do it anymore. But I get to Texas, Odessa, Texas. And I have a lady come up to me, she's crying and she's saying, sir, I'm the director of a juvenile facility. Will you please come and speak with my young men? I said, miss, I'll be honest with you, miss. I've never been in a facility because I didn't get caught, but I'm ready to go. She says, great. So I show up to this facility, and I'm standing there, and there's two doors, and these young men start to walk in, and they're in fatigues, and the drill sergeants are there, and I said, ma'am, can I interact? She says, go ahead, bro. I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? Man, what's your name? Yo, what's up, buddy? Where do you come from? And I start meeting all these young men. Well, this one young man stood out because he was funny, and he had all the respect of everyone around him. And as I walked out with the director, she's crying, and I said, ma'am, are you okay? And she says, yes, Roy. She says, it's just it. Well, you know that young man you just met? I said, if you don't mind me asking, why is he in here? And she said, Roy, he's in here for murder. Freshman year of high school, his father picked him up and said, today, you're going to kill him, man. Because his father was involved in all the drug trafficking and gang violence on the border. That the son took the gun, killed the man he was told to kill, got arrested, tried as an adult, and she's saying, Roy, within 2 months we have to move him to the adult facility, but we don't give him longer than 2 weeks to live before that rival gang kills him. She says, Roy, he's dead. She says, Roy, he's 16, he's dead. And that got me. Because I thought, why didn't anybody catch him? Why didn't anybody catch him and teach him that he had a future? That he had a future that belonged to him, not to his dad. That maybe, just maybe, if somebody would have caught him, and maybe they did, I don't know, but the idea of maybe was good enough for me. If someone would have just caught him and taught him, maybe, he would have said, man, I'm not going to kill anyone. So I decided then that I couldn't just cross this country, that I had to do more. And I thought, well, what if I circle the entire country? But this is what that means. That means that my little 6-month journey, estimated cost $40,000. In order to do it right, I would have to live out of my car for 2 years. Circle this entire country, estimated cost $160,000. All because I wanted to create change to help kids like me. But there was no way that I could say no, because I remember what it was like. And for many of you in this room, you remember what it's like. That's why you're here today. That's why you even came to the closing session, because you remember what it was like. You see, my first teachers were my parents, my mom and my dad, my mother being the most beautiful woman still to this day. And my dad was this man that I wanted to be just like. And every time that I had a chance as a kid, man, I would run to my dad and be like, Dad, can I go to work with you, Dad? Dad, can I go to work with you? And every now and then my dad would say, yeah, hurry up, get your stuff, let's go. And as a kid, I didn't realize it by the tone of his voice that he didn't want me there. All I knew was that my dad said yes. So I would get my things and I would jump in the truck and I would drive to the side. He would set up a ladder, I would climb up on this ladder and I would pick the nails because my dad's a roofer. And it didn't matter what we were doing, as long as I was with my dad, my hero, that's all that mattered. And I remember being about 7 years old when he said the one thing that he had been promised to me. And he said, Mijo, which means like my son in Spanish. Mijo, remember that fish and chip I promised you? I'm like, well yeah, Dad, I remember. Well, go get your things because tomorrow we're going. So I got everything that I needed and I put it right underneath my bed. That next morning when he woke me up, I jumped in his truck, we drove to my aunt's house and I'm playing with my cousins and my dad said, come here. Have a seat right here. And my dad, he asked me to sit on the front porch of my aunt's house. And at 7 years old, I don't think much of it when he comes up to me and goes, hey, I need you to wait here. Well, I go get some ice for the ice chest. I was like, well, okay. And I sit there and I watch as he jumps in the truck. My uncles jump in the truck. My cousins jump in the truck. Then my dog jumps in that truck and they drive off. And I'm thinking, well, they're going to come back because, I mean, I'm 7 years old and I know a little bit about life. You lie, you get in trouble. You break something, you get in trouble. Man, you take your sister's dog and you cut off all their hair. I mean, I'm 7, you know a little bit about life. But I didn't do anything. So I sit there and 30 minutes goes by. And 30 minutes for a 7-year-old, now that's a long time. Well, 30 minutes turned into 2 hours, and 2 hours later, I'm inside my house, my aunt's house, and I'm staring out the window, just waiting for any moment for my dad, my hero, to pull up and say, come on, Roy. Come on. Because this is the fishing trip I promised you, mijo. This is the fishing trip you've been waiting for. Come on. Well, 2 hours turns into 2 days. And 2 days later, they all walk in the house and they're laughing. They're laughing about how much fun they had and how they purposely left me. And that day at 7 years old, man, I learned lessons. I learned lessons that as I have traveled throughout this entire country, every state in the continental United States, I have looked in the eyes of young people, over 100,000 to this day. And I have seen that many have learned the same lessons that I have learned at 7 years old, because at 7, I learned how to be angry. I learned how to hate. And I learned how to hold a grudge. Because I said, man, I don't need this man. I don't need my dad. Because I have my mom, and my mom's all that I need. So I started to build that relationship with my mother. Always hugging my mom and kissing my mom. And every time she'd be watching her soap operas, I'd be putting my head on her lap and be like, Mommy, scratch my head, Mommy. And she'd always be like, "Ay, go play outside and get out of here." I could never get my mother to show me that affection back. Man, not till I got to middle school. Now, I'm not sure if you guys didn't have any kids in middle school, but everything changes in middle school. And for parents too, because all of a sudden, man, my mom, she started hugging me, she started kissing me, but I think it was because she was a little jealous of the other woman in my life. Her name was Maria. You know what I'm saying? And Maria, at that time in my life, 6th grade, she was, like, I'm not sure what she looks like now because she doesn't have Facebook, but, that's not stalking. I'm just concerned. No, but in 6th grade, I would get up, and I'd get dressed for Maria. I'd spray for Maria. Make sure. I remember one morning in particular, no joke, my mom's driving me to the middle school, and as we pull in, sure enough, I see her, and it was kind of the cloud split, and it was like, I don't even say bye to my mom. So I jumped out of the car, and I started walking towards her, and halfway there, I hear it, "Mijo!" And I'm like, again, meaning my son, I'm like, "Oh, Mom, don't do this to me, Mom." But luckily, man, I grew up in South Texas, and where I went to school, we were all brown. Anyone could be Mijo. So I'm like, whatever. So I keep going. And I'm almost there, and she gets louder, "Mijo!" And so I realized that my mom's not going to stop. So finally, I turn around, and I look at her, and I'm not sure why she thought this was okay. But she threw the car in park. She's standing outside the car, and she's saying, "Mijo, come give me a kiss." That's his mom. You know, like, for me, middle school had become all about Maria, it became about my buddies, and I remember one day, we're sitting in the lunchroom, and we're laughing, and we're talking. Well, my one friend starts talking about his family, and how they were always fighting, and how they might get divorced. And he said, "Hey, Roy, well, what's your family like?" And as a kid, and I'm sure many kids you work with have learned the same lessons that I had learned. And I was always taught, whatever happens in the home, stays in the home. I said, "Hey, man, you know, that stinks for you, bro. Because my parents, they've been married for 20 years, and we're happy." But that wasn't the truth. You see, if I would have learned to tell the truth, then I would have talked about the nights that I would wake up in my room because I could hear my mother screaming through the wall. And she would be screaming, "Mijo, Mijo, help me. Mijo, please, 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 Mijo, help me." Because my dad was feeding her in the next room. But at that age, I was so scared of that man that I didn't do anything. And for the longest time, I hated myself because of it. Because all I did was lay there the entire night, and I would try to muffle the sound of her voice with my pillow, and the next thing I knew was that I woke up. Because somewhere during that evening, man, I finally fell asleep. But when I woke up, and I went to school, and my counselors, they wanted me to do well in school, to learn math, to learn English, to dream about some future. I couldn't dream about a future. Because the only thing that I could think about sitting in that desk was, well, how bad did he beat her lessons? Well, I even have a mom. When I go home, or is he going to do what he said that he was going to do to her, and you want me to drink? Yes. We need our kids to drink. But for kids just like me, we don't know how. Which is why the work that you do is so important. Don't just teach me how to cope with situations, Don't just tell me that I'm going to make it someday. Help me dream again. Because I used to dream. I used to have all kinds of dreams. But all I knew was that after 20 years of marriage, my mom said, I can't. She said, I can't do this anymore. And she told my dad, I want a divorce. And my dad said, well, I'm not going to give you one. Because if I can't have you, nobody's going to have you. And as a family, we had to go into hiding. And we started moving from home to home to home. And every single time that my dad found us, we would take the sheets off the bed, put it on the floor, put our clothes, pick it up, and we were gone. Constantly running every single time he found us. And the cops, yeah, they came to our house so many times for domestic violence that, man, my mom started dating a police officer. So for all you single women, man, forget Match.com. Just call 911, it works. So my mom, she's dating this cop, and we're living on the south side of San Antonio, Texas. And it had been like 6 months since my dad had found us, and man, it felt awesome. Because at this point in my life, I finally made it to freshman year of high school. And I actually started to make some friends. And I remember freshman year, coming home on the bus, pulling into the apartment complex where we're hiding, and as I looked out the window, I see my dad leaving the apartment complex. So I go to my mom and I said, Mom, he found us, Mom. Mom, he found us. I saw him, Mom. I know it was him, Mom. What are we going to do? And her boyfriend was there. And he looked at my mother and he said, you were such a good woman. You were such a good woman that you shouldn't have to go through this. Why don't you come live with me? And man, I thought this was a great idea because in my mind, I'm thinking, man, this dude's a cop. My dad's violent. Man, we call 911 and he's already there. Like, this is awesome. But he looked at my mom and he said, but I have one catch. He said, I don't want kids. And there was 5 of us. My sister Amy was 16 years old. My sister Tammy was 15. But this is my mom. This is the woman that I loved, that I trusted, that I protected. Because every single time my dad found us, I started to fight him to make sure that she could get away. So when she looked at him and she said, okay. I was 14 years old when I first became homeless in the streets of San Antonio. And then with my 9-year-old sister and my 2-year-old brother. And you want me to dream. It's so hard to dream when you have your 2-year-old little brother in your hands and he is crying because he's hungry. And you're having to say, baby Ray, just go to sleep. Just go to sleep. And I promise you, tomorrow I'm going to find you food. Just go to sleep. Because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know about organizations. I didn't know about safe place. I didn't know that there were people out there that really cared. And even if I knew, you know what, I'll be honest. I was also scared. So how do we create an environment where kids are even willing to speak with us? And I sat through an amazing workshop on social media, and I believe her name was Karen. Karen, are you in the house? I'm not sure if you're still here, but she had an amazing workshop of this 72-hour story that just took out all this awareness about her organization and how they can help young people. Would that have made a difference? I don't know. But maybe it's good enough for me. Maybe it's good enough for me. And I remember that my 2 older sisters moved off with their boyfriends, and it left me with Danielle and baby Ray. And finally my grandmother said, well, Roy, I can take Danielle, but mijo, I can't take baby Ray. When my grandmother had 2 spare bedrooms, she had 2. How in the world does a 16-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old become homeless when you have 8 uncles and aunts? How does that happen? I mean, what did they think every holiday when we weren't sitting there? What did they think? But you know what that tells me? That tells me that we do need to become better people. And maybe not you in this room. Or maybe if your heart has hardened just a little, remember why you're so important. Remember why you're so needed. Because even with your heart being a little hardened, you're still helping. But remember why you're here. And I said, Grandma, just take Danielle. Just take Danielle and I'll figure it out. And so she took my little sister. And my best friend's aunt said, well, Roy, well, I can take your baby brother. But I am so sorry, Nicole, I just don't have room for you. When I didn't even need a bed. I was willing to sleep on the floor, but her words, I don't have room for you, have echoed in my mind ever since. And I have seen her mentality of I don't have room for you. And every shelter I've been in, every organization, every school, I don't have room for you. And they love to give that all kinds of names. In some places, they call it racism. In school, they call it bullying. Other places, they call it classism. Look, just because a person doesn't look like you, act like you, or talk like you, that doesn't mean we push them out. Please, make room for everyone. There should be room for everyone. And I remember saying, Miss Carmen, just take baby Ray. Just take baby Ray, because as long as he's safe, as long as he's eating, I'll figure it out. And I remember that I had a bag with me, much like this one, because I had looked at everything that I ever owned, and I asked myself, what can I take with me that'll fit in that bag? Because from this moment on, that bag is my home. So I took me clothes, but you learn quickly to take plastic bags from the grocery store, because every time your clothes smell and you can't wash them. If you put them inside those plastic bags and tie it up and put it back in your bag, it doesn't get your clean clothes dirty. I took with me a picture of my family because there's something about being young that we can be hurt and hurt and hurt, but man, we still love. And never lose that about who we are. Never allow our hearts to turn so hard that we stop caring about other people and we stop caring about ourselves. We should never go there in life. I took with me a notepad and pen, and I was 14 years old when I wrote the 2 letters that I wanted to be read at my funeral just in case something happened. Because the truth is, some families who took me in, man, they were great for however long it lasted. And other families, and if you want to know the truth, some of the members of those families, man, they expected things from you because you lived with them. And that is never okay. It is never okay for anyone to put their hands on you. But it meant that I had a place to sleep. And it meant that I had food to eat. And I continued to move from home to home to home, whoever would take me in. And every time I moved into this new person's house, I would pull out this imaginary bag and I would look in there and I would ask, well, who do they want me to be? Because if I could become whoever or whatever they wanted, then that meant that I had a place. And that meant that if my little brother or my little sister wanted to see me and this family would let them, then I got to see my little brother or sister. And I remember one family said, yes, Ron, baby Ray could come. But he could only stay one night. And I said, well, thank you. I mean, that was all that I was asking. Is that my little brother could come for one night? And they allowed baby Ray to come over. And I didn't waste a single moment with my little brother. But I remember waiting inside, staring out that window, waiting for that van to pull in, and assured that as soon as that van pulled in, I opened that door, and they opened the sliding door, baby Ray jumped out, and he ran to me. I didn't waste a single moment with my little brother. We ran around outside. I cooked him whatever he wanted that was in that house. And I remember sitting there watching the same cartoon DVD over and over and over. And as I looked out the window, I saw the sun going down, and I knew exactly what that meant. That meant that my time with my little brother was coming to an end. And as I laid him on the bed next to me, I felt horrible. Because I didn't want him to grow up with these memories that his mother left him, that his father left him, that his brothers and sisters left him because we were too young or he was too young to understand that we were homeless. But I learned something. And it's something that I try to teach all the young kids that I work with today. Maybe I didn't have control over that situation. But what I've learned is what I do have control over. You see, in life, I have control over how I allow situations to affect me. Because in life, we get bitter or we get better. Please choose to be better. Because there's enough anger and hatred in this world and we don't need any more. Please, please be better. So that night, I wanted to give my little brother a good memory. And so I woke him up and I said, Baby Ray, wake up. And Baby Ray wakes up and I said, Mijo, do you want to eat ice cream? And Baby Ray says, yeah. So we snuck into the kitchen of the house where we were living. And I sit Baby Ray at the table, and Baby Ray could barely see over the table, and I showed him this big bowl of ice cream. He starts to eat his ice cream, and I took that moment to give my little brother a good memory. And I looked at him, and I said, Baby Ray, you need to understand something. I said, Mijo, I love you, and I never wanted to leave you. But Ray, we're homeless. But I promise you one day I will come back and I will get you, and you will go to middle school, you will go to high school, you will go to college, and all your dreams will come true. But my little brother was too young to understand a single word I said. Man, he didn't even look at me. He just sat there and he tore up his ice cream. The next morning when I woke up and I looked over, he was gone. And several days later, I was back on the street. And the first two thoughts that came to my mind was, man, where am I going to find a safe place to sleep tonight? Where am I going to find food to eat? For many of you know this lesson, because if you grow up with a tough life, with situations and obstacles, you learn lessons that can never be taught in a book. But if you can use your education to define those lessons, there's no stopping you. Because education not only changes our life, but it changes the entire fabric of our family. Education changes everything. But I didn't understand that. All I knew was that I was back on the street and that I was hungry. And I found myself in Dallas, Texas. And I'm in Texas, and I'm downtown, and I see this huge hotel. It was an Omni Hotel. I thought, man, that's a nice hotel. They gotta have food in there. So I go into this hotel, and I'm looking around, and sure enough, I found this line of women about to go into this room, and you could just smell the food coming from that room. And as soon as they opened up the doors and the women started to file in, I jumped right in line, I walked right in there with them. And I walked into this huge room, much like today, tables covered in white linen, silverware, and glasses. And I remember sitting on the far back corner because I didn't want anyone to notice me. Because yes, as a street kid, you learn to become invisible. As a couch surfer, you learn to become invisible. Because if you can blend in, you can stay one more day. One more day. But let me tell you what happens. You lose who you are. You don't know who you are anymore. Which Roy is the real Roy that's in this bed? Or is it all of them? But that day, I sat in the very far back corner. And no one really noticed. I talked to everyone. The lady looked away. I jacked her bread. Eat that a little later. Kept talking. And I was about to leave when this lady came out and she started to speak. And I'll be honest, I didn't care what she had to say. Man, I was there for the meal. But she started to talk about her life. And about the way that she was raised on the third to the last street in Laredo, Texas, daughter of immigrants, and how she was told in high school that girls like her don't make it. That girls like her, they make babies. But this woman, her father taught her to ask, why not me? Did you go back and ask her, why not me? And this woman became the highest ranking Latina woman in the combat support field of the U.S. Army and broke all kinds of records because she learned to ask, why not me? And as I sat there, homeless, hungry, broken, I asked myself the same question. Why not me? Why can't I have my dreams because I'm homeless? Because I come from a broken family? Because of where I grew up? The only reason I didn't have my dreams was because I stopped dreaming. Help our kids to dream. Because sometimes these dreams will carry them through the toughest parts of their life. Help them to dream. And after that day, I made my way back to San Antonio. I went to Miss Carmen's house, and this is my truth, to each their own. I go to Miss Carmen's house, and I grab Baby Ray. And I take Baby Ray to these ministers I knew. And I said, Pastor Doris, I said, man, my baby brother and I, we have no place to live, man, but if you allow us to live inside your church, I promise you that we will clean it every Sunday and every Wednesday, and it'll be ready for all your services. And Pastor Doris looked at me and she said, you're not going to live here in this church. She said, you're going to live with me under one condition. But those words, one condition, I had heard in almost every family who would take me in. And sometimes those conditions weren't good. So with all this fear and all this anger, I just said, well, what do you want? She said, excuse me? I said, what do you want? Everybody wants something. What do you want? She says, Roy, come here. She said, Mijo, all we want from you is that you go back to school. Because I dropped out. I never knew where I was going to live, how long I would be there. I said, that's it? That's all you want from me is that I go back to school. She says, that's it. You're going to live in this home. You will be in school. And that's all that I wanted. Deep down in there, I was tired of living out of this bag. Not knowing whose home I was going to go into. And what exactly did they want from me? Just to go back to school. I enrolled at Southwest High School as a third-year freshman. Became a sophomore and then a senior, and it was 3 months before what was become the greatest day of my life at that moment, high school graduation. But for me, man, life threw me a curveball. Because out of every high school I could have attended, by chance, I attended the same high school as my mother's boyfriend's son, the police officer's son, and we're both seniors graduating the same night. So 3 months before graduation, I called my real mom up and I said, hey, Mom. She goes, hi, Mom. How you doing? I said, I'm doing good, Mom. I said, listen, I want to tell you something. And she says, well, what is it? I said, well, Mom, I just want to say that I made it, Mom. I made it. Can you believe it? I'm going to graduate. And she says, I know. I'm so proud of you after everything that we've been through. You're going to make it. I said, thanks, Mom. I said, well, listen, I want to say one more thing. She goes, well, what is it? I said, well, I know that Carlos and I are going to graduate together, but I just want to say that when we graduate, you're my mom. And she said, what did you say? Well, I'm just saying, Mom, that you're my mom. And she got really upset and she hung up the phone. So 3 months goes by, and my adopted parents, is what I call them today, were getting me ready for graduation. Man, I had the shoes, they were shining, the slacks, and poke the tie. I mean, I was eating real delicious, right? And why you gotta hate? Now, I really wasn't, right? But check this out. I remember going to high school graduation. There was this cut the curtain. You can see all the audience. I'm standing behind the curtain. My friend Henry Johnson ahead of me. They call his name. He walks forward. He grabs his diploma. And I step forward. Man, I could see everyone. And they call my name, and I walk forward, and I grab my diploma. See, what I didn't realize then was I wasn't grabbing a piece of paper. I was grabbing freedom. Education is freedom. But all I knew was that all my teachers kept telling me, Roy, you need to go to college. Roy, you need to go to college. Roy, you need to go to school. It'll change everything. And they repeated it so much that finally it got in here. So I go to community college, and I'm struggling, and I'm not doing so well when the dean comes up to me, and she said, Roy, are you coming to our event tonight? I was like, nah, miss, I'm not going to come. She's like, Roy, we have food. I was like, miss, I was joking. I'm going to be there. She says, I'm glad. I said, miss, you know me, like I'm all about school spirit. Go Wildcat. And she was like, great, would you be willing to introduce our guest speaker? I said, miss, I'll do it, but can I get like some extra credit? She's like, Roy. I said, miss, you see my grades? Can you do me a solid? Roy. Okay, I'll do it. Gosh, who is it? She said her name is retired Lieutenant Colonel Consuelo Castillo Kickbush, which was the same lady who had 7 years earlier was speaking at that hotel I snuck into. I said, I would love to introduce her. Nobody had ever known my story. Because I was taught, what happens at home stays at home. That day, I stood in front of all my peers. And Miss Kickbush stood to my left and I said, Miss, you don't know me, miss? But we met before. 7 years ago, I was a homeless teenager and I snuck into a hotel to eat, and with just your words, you inspired me enough not to give up. And well, miss, that's why I'm here today. Imagine that. Imagine what you were doing for children like me, with just your words. And now when we put all that action behind our words, you're saving lives. You may not see it, but you're saving lives. 2 weeks later, I got invited to speak at her book signing. 2 weeks after I get hired in her company for a 3-month internship to last for 2 years. And at the end of the 2 years, she says, Roy, you need to go. I said, miss, you're going to fire me? She says, no, you won't. You can't work for me all your life. I was like, why not, miss? You pay well. She said, Roy, you need to go to school, you need to finish. Where do you want to go? I said, I don't know, miss. Where do you go to school? She said, I went to Hardin Simmons University in Abilene, Texas. I was like, well, I don't even know where Abilene is, but I want to go. I applied to Hardin Simmons University. I got accepted. And in May of 2009, I went from eating ketchup packages on the streets of San Antonio as a homeless teenager to becoming a college graduate to today choosing to live my life as an activist as I crisscross this country, trying to get to one more school, one more shelter, one more organization. And I was lucky enough that one day I was in Vienna, Austria, speaking, and I received a call from, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the book Chicken Soup for the Soul, and they called and they were like, Roy, we heard about you. I'm like, I didn't do it. They're like, we would love to put your story in our next book. I'm like, really? And they did, and that is what's helped me keep my journey alive. No grants, no sponsors. I lived out of my car for 2.5 years. Circled the entire country. On the Homeless by Choice tour, I was able to speak to over 100,000 young people, just from 2010 to 2012. But it was that book and my baby brother who helped keep that tour alive. They allowed me to sell them, and they were like, you can sell them for 50%, you'll get 50% back, and that's what was keeping my tour alive. And then Baby Ray started sending me money, and I said, Baby Ray, where are you getting this money from? I thought, we might be selling some drugs or something. And, but luckily, he says, brother, he says, I know what you're doing. He says, so I created bracelets, and I started to sell them to my friends at school. He goes, and I know you need the money. So Baby Ray started selling them. So then I get invited to go speak at Baby Ray School. Baby Ray is no longer a baby. He's actually taller than me. He's skinnier than me. I hate him. No, I don't hate him. He's skinnier than me. He's an amazing, amazing young man. I made him a promise. You see, at one point, I didn't dream big enough for the both of us. But I found my purpose. I found what was my motivation. And that was Baby Ray and Danielle. If I wasn't going to survive for myself, I needed to survive to make sure that they had a better life. Help your young people find their motivation for the days that they want to give up on. What's going to keep them strong? It was my dream that one day he will go to middle school, one day he will go to high school, and one day he will go to college, because his dreams will come true. So Baby Ray is a sophomore in college today. When he was a sophomore in high school, I got invited to speak at a school. And they said, Mr. Waters, will you come speak at our school? I said, of course. And they said, we want you to speak to seniors, all seniors. We have 650 of them. I said, okay. They said, well, can Baby Ray be in the audience? They said, of course, we'll pull him out of class. So I'm on stage, and I'm sharing my story, and I take questions. So the first question was, what happened to Baby Ray? I said, well, Baby Ray, today's very special because Baby Ray actually attends school here. How we welcome Baby Ray to the stage. So Baby Ray comes up, and we're talking about our life and what we experienced. And I said, seniors, before I leave, I need to ask you for a favor. And at this point, 10th grade, Baby Ray was really shy. And he's like, what are you doing? I was like, man, my baby brother hasn't been able to find a date to prom yet. And his face turned red, turned so red. And this real pretty little girl in the front row, she raised her hand. I said, yes, ma'am. And so she stands up and she said, well, does he like black girls? And I look at Baby Ray and he goes, and let me explain why I love that story. You see, I didn't have a good high school experience. I dropped out. I wanted to go into 5 different high schools, an alternative school. I graduated 3 months before my 20th birthday. But to see my baby brother have an amazing high school experience, that means everything to me. You see, there are some people in this world, and maybe a few in this room, and I hope not, but there are some people in this world when they hurt, they want others to hurt. Let us not be like those people. If anything, let us want more for others, even if it means that they have more than what we have. Call me optimistic or whatever, but I truly believe that we can all change tomorrow if we just change a little of who we are today for the better. But that change has to start in us. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't have an official ending, but I do want to take a couple of questions about my life. I hope that you were able to see some of the youth that you work with in my story. And I would love to answer any questions that you may have about my story. Any questions whatsoever? Don't be shy. How are the rest of my siblings? Thank you for asking that. My mother, I'll do it this way. My mother married a police officer. He is my dad. And I love the man. Did he make mistakes? He did. But we all make mistakes. It's important that we make it right. And he has. He's been the backbone that my mother needed to survive. If it wasn't for him, I don't think I would have a mom today. I think she would have taken her life. She was extremely suicidal. So my two sisters, when we got older, and when I say older, we were like 21, we finally sat down together and said, what happened to you? Because we never saw each other. So we started to tell our stories. And my sister Amy moved in with her boyfriend Mark. And they were married for many years, had their first child. And Amy is probably the one that has the biggest heart out of all of us. Loves and loves and loves and loves, and will do whatever she can. Amazing woman. Tammy is probably the strongest one out of all of us, the one right above me. See, what we didn't know then that we know now, that Tammy was being molested by one of our family members. She was molested up until the age of 12, becomes homeless at the age of 15. That is not a way to start life. I couldn't blame Tammy. She had chosen to be bitter for the rest of her life. But what makes Tammy so amazing is that she chooses to be better. Tammy is the one that helps me out the most with my activism. She is always there. If I need anything, Tammy's there. And Tammy is so amazing that she's actually a hospital advocate for the Rape Crisis Center. So any time of day or night, if a young lady is sexually assaulted, Tammy will go to the hospital and be there with the young lady through the entire process to make sure that she's not there alone. And I can only imagine my sister has to relive the hell that she went through. So to me, she's amazing. She's probably the strongest one out of all of us. Danielle was the one that we were scared for the most because she repeated the cycle. Married a guy with his group of friends where their drugs deals went bad. He was one to fix the problem. Very violent to Danielle. She wasn't allowed to have friends or talk to her family. So we put her into hiding. The first place she went into hiding was in my dorm room in college. She's there with my niece that she had just had. I leave for the weekend. I come back and she's gone. And I'm trying to get a hold of her, and I'm trying to get a hold of her. And I'm like, Danielle, what are you doing, Danielle? What are you doing? Don't you know that a woman will return to her abuser 7 times before she's murdered? What are you doing? And she says, I don't know, boy. She says, I don't love him. I just can't leave him. Danielle was that broken kid on the inside that all she wanted was a family. But that wasn't it. She went back. We finally put her in hiding again. This time I was living in Vegas. Put her in Vegas. She did really well until she finally came back home, and now she lives in San Antonio. She has 3 children, and she's doing extremely well. And then there's Baby Ray, who's just awesome. Baby Ray's so cool. Like, I love that kid. I love that kid. He helps me out quite a bit as well. It's Tammy and Baby Ray. But they're doing great. They're doing great. Any other questions? Any other questions? Yes? Thank you. You know, what I would say is, first off, you're right on cue because it's going to be all about relationships. We need to trust you. Not only trust you, but we need to feel like you really care. Because I got to a point that I was like, you know what, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you think, I don't care what you think. Until that one lady, Miss Cakebush, came in my life, and I thought, I think this one's really loves me. Then I started to test her. Really? You love me? Let's see how much you love me. I'm going to do this. You still love me? Let me do this. Wait, you still love me? And I'm going to tell this story. So one day, I'm like, all right. So I get locked up, right? Well, I'll put in the holding cell. I wasn't really locked up, but nonetheless. So I had a whole pile of unpaid parking tickets, and Miss Kickbush had been talking to me about responsibility, a word that I didn't like. And so I finally say, okay, I'm gonna take responsibility. I go to the courthouse, because I don't know what I don't know, and I'm like, I like to take care of my tickets. They're like, okay, sir, well, it's gonna be this much money. I was like, oh, I don't have money. I just want to know what I gotta do. And she's like, oh, 1 second. So the sheriff comes around, he's like, well, you have the right to remain silent. I was like, oh, this isn't good. So I have one call. I can call my biological mom, or I can call the colonel. I'm gonna call the colonel, right? So Miss Kickbush. So I call her, and her assistant answers, and she says, thank you for calling Educational Achievement Services. This is Pat. How can I help you? I was like, hi, Pat. She's, Roy, where are you? I'm in jail, Miss Pat. Where? I'm in jail. She goes, 1 second. So she gives the phone to Miss Kickbush. And Miss Kickbush goes, where are you? I said, Miss Kickbush, I'm in jail. She goes, where are you at? So she sends my mom, my biological mom, to come get me. And my mom bells me out, and she says, Miss Kickbush said that as soon as you're done, you'd better get to work. I said, okay. So my mom takes me to work, drops me off, and Miss Kickbush is on the phone with the client. Hi, Manita. It's so great to hear from you. Blah, blah, blah. She's really nice, right? So I go to my desk, and I just start working. And then I hear her get off the phone, and she says, turn around. And I turn around and have this huge smile on my face, because that's my defense mechanism. Wipe that smile off your face. And then she just laid into me. For like 2 hours it felt. It was probably like 10 minutes, but it was still like, it felt like 2 hours. And then here's where the changing happened. The phone rings. And her assistant goes to answer. She goes, don't answer that. And so she just sits there. And she says, what don't you get? What don't you get? I choose you, Roy. I choose you. That could have been a $100,000 call. But I choose you. Just give me the application, give me the resumes. So her assistant gets the resumes, she gets them, and she throws them at the desk in front of me. Those are PhDs that want to work for me. I choose you. And that was the glue that pieced together this broken child. So I finally felt that someone chose me. I wasn't just put in your paperwork. You chose me. When a kid truly knows you care. And it can be as easy as you don't even have to ask them questions that have to do with your situation. Just be there. They need to know you're there. Share your story. So I will close with this. There's a workshop I do that's called Go Fishing, and it's an acronym. G, guide through love. O, operating trust. Trust that every investment you're going to make in that child, it will come. It will come through. Operating trust. F, find humor in the situation. I, intentions. What are your intentions? Is it just to check them off your list? Or are your intentions to actually instill something in this child? Hope, their dreams. S, share your story. There's nothing stronger than me understanding that you've been there or that you care. And for those of you who don't have a traumatic story, that's even better. Because you're the hope that life can be okay. You probably have the strongest story out of all of us. That life can be okay. H, honor their accomplishments. Because if you want me there and all I get is here, all this is still success. Honor their accomplishments. I, intention, investment. It's going to take an investment, and not just financially, but time, emotions. It's going to take an investment. And never give up. And G, go beyond what's expected. You want to reach kids like me? You're going to have to go beyond what's expected. Because we're going to test you to make sure that you care. And if you care, you will go beyond. So go fishing, because our kids need it. You never know who they will become, what they would do. They're going to be in society one way or another. Am I going to break into your car? Or am I going to help you cross the street? What kind of person do you want in your society? Go beyond what's expected. Go fishing. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for having me. It's been my honor.
Wow. What do you say? Roy, thank you for your message. Thank you for your commitment, and thank you for your passion. It really makes a difference. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, who's awake? Who's stayed on Bourbon Street all night and just rolled out? It's been a great 3 days. It's been long 3 days, but it's been a great 3 days. It's been good. It's been wonderful. It's been all those things that cause us to be here and believe that it's worth our time and effort. You guys, and I mean that generic guys, men, women, young people, you do great work. And your work does matter. And to Roy's point, you're investing. You're investing in these young people every day. And that investment is paying off. Sometimes you won't be with that kid long enough to know it or to see it, but you have to believe that it really truly happened and that you made a difference. Because that's one of the ways in which it keeps you going. Because it sure as hell is not the money. Yeah. I mean, I think we all know that what you're doing this for is not about the money. It's about the young people that you see every day. I used to do what you did, and I know how draining it can be in terms of energy, but it's also fulfilling, and it energizes you. But every day you're starting over, and you're re-energizing every day because you need to, because the young folks that you work with need you to be that way. I'd like to thank RITAC for the great coordination they've done in pulling this together. Let's give them a round of applause. I also want to thank the RITAC Advisory Board for over 2 years of service. To take a second and stand and be recognized, all the advisory board members, if you're in the room, or are they the ones with the bourbon cup? Oh, there's a few. I also want to thank the 2015 Planning Conference Committee members. And this may take a little more time as I go through and thank folks, but I think I want to acknowledge the good work that folks have done to make this happen. So if you'd stand up, the Planning Committee members, I sure appreciate it. Go, stand up, Deb. Don't be bad. And I want to thank the over 100 presenters who provided us with great educational opportunities and great opportunities to exchange ideas and also to share our stories. To share your stories of frustration, your stories of hope, your stories of believing in tomorrow, and another opportunity to do it all over again, one day at a time. And we also want to thank the Covenant House of Boys Town folks for allowing us to take a day out of their time and share with us what they're doing in their programs that's really, truly making a difference for young people. I also want to thank the Marine Color Guard for taking the time. Gosh, was it Tuesday? Feels like it's been, okay, for the very first day. And they are back this morning, and I know Lori's going to have some things to say about them. I also want to thank Rafael Lopez, our commissioner, for taking time to be here with us this week to offer words of encouragement and support. And it matters greatly because he was also very sick. Debbie got him sick. She passed it around. The whole office was getting sick, and it's all Debbie's fault. No, I'm just kidding. Debbie did get sick, but someone else passed it on to her. I was fortunate. I had my flu shot. See, that's what happens when you're not responsible. I also want to thank those organizations that supported the conference, that gave us their time, their energy to make this happen. And you know who you are, and you're recognized in the program book. And so by all means, please accept our great appreciation for what you've been doing with us to make this real. I also want to thank the Mural Contest Award winners, the Child and Family Charities, Gateway Youth Services, Kevin J. Beatty Youth Home. Those young people that designed the winning mural depicted the program as a gateway to new life. And I think listening to Roy's story, you can imagine what that gateway looks like for each of them and feel good about the fact that you contributed to that. I also want to thank my staff for the good work, the great work that they have done to help make this real, and also to make this successful, and also, quite frankly, to help us move our collective agenda forward. They work hard every day, and Debbie and I push them hard every day. The reality is they do it because they care too. They're not working each day like you are with individual young people, but they're working with you. And we'd like to believe that that matters to you and that we're making a difference in supporting your good work. I'd like our staff to stand and be recognized, if you would. Don't be bashful. I also want to thank you, Debbie, for supporting me. I've been in this position now for 2 years, and I have to say, and folks who know me know this about me, I really truly am not a good Fed. I don't do that very well, because I tend to always ask why. You know, toward what end? And why do this because it makes some sense. But through it all, Debbie's been there saying, okay, but you can't do that. You can't say that. You have to do it this way to keep me out of trouble. And I appreciate you, Debbie, for that. And it's been a great partnership, for sure. I also want to ask Gloria Watkins to stand up. I did with Gloria as the conference general, and I appreciate her good work. I also want to give a shout out again to our RITAC friends for the leadership that you show every day in pulling this together. We can be very demanding, and they've lived up to all the expectations that we've had and beyond. Last but not least, I want to thank our regional folks, our regional staff for the work that you do. You're closer to our program partners than any of us. They rely on you to give them information, to give them encouragement, to give them support. And you all do that very effectively, and I so appreciate it. I know Debbie does too. In closing, when I came to this position, George Sheldon, who at the time was the acting assistant secretary, we talked about the position and why we get at it. I'd been in Georgia for 30 years in Florida. And I said, well, George, you know I am. I don't deal with bureaucracies. He said, yeah, but you care. I said, yeah, I said, I do. I do care about the issues. And I do feel like I'm coming back. If I come back, I'm coming back not to stay, but I'm coming back to make a difference. And my commitment to you is over the next 2016 calendar year, I'll do all I can to work in partnership with you to help us meet our collective goal of ending youth homelessness in 2020. And for all you do, I appreciate it. I appreciate you. I value you, and I value what you do. And I appreciate, by the way, you all tolerating me coming around to your program and asking questions and talking with your kids and disrupting your day. And I know it's a disruption, but do know that we appreciate it. It gives us a chance to remember why we do this work. I love going out in the field. And if I didn't hate to fly so much, I'd do it more often. I hate to fly, especially small planes, small being 50 or less. But I will get to your regions as often as I can. And again, I do appreciate it when you all open your arms to me and to our staff to come in and learn more about what you do. Before I go, I'd like to ask you to join us in 2016 for our 2016 RITAC conference, which will be held at the lovely Tradewinds Hotel, not to be confused with the result, in lovely Tampa, Florida. We promise more good times. Lori?
How about a big round for Mr. Dudley? Wow, it's been a long week, right? It's been a
bags as well. We at RITEC operate at the will and the pleasure of FISBE, and we certainly hope to meet all of the needs of all of the grantees. So we're excited and pleased with the turnout and all of the sessions and all of the information, and hope that you are too. So I just have a few housekeeping things that I want to share. Most of it you heard from me earlier this week, but I'll repeat it just because we're at the end. In your bags were CEU forms and certificate of attendance forms. I know many of you have handed those in. If you haven't, and you need to one of those, make sure that you do that. We'll collect those out the back. We want to hear from you. I know Debbie has also mentioned several times, we want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we always want to continue to improve and do better. So make sure that you complete your evaluations. Those were in your packet, in your books also, or in your bags also. If you want, you can go online. It's going to be electronic as well, so you've heard that before. But just we really, really want to be able to share with FISBE this is what you all want, and this is the information that this is where we could do better, and this is what we did well, and this is what you need in the future. So please fill those out for us. We appreciate it. As always, as in the last several years, we have signed the banner, so you'll see that it's not up here this morning, but it is out in the hallway, so make sure as you're on your way out today that you take time to sign the banner. We're hoping to be able to hang each of those each year as we move to different locations. So we love to look back and see who was here and remember that event, so make sure that you sign the banner for us. Finally, stipend request forms. So as you all know, there is some funds available to help reimburse for some of your expenses related to this trip. So those were also in your bags. You can also get those online, but make sure that you fill those out for us and get them back to the National Safe Place Network RITEC office no later than December 15th, so we can turn those around and get your money back to you. So we look forward to that. But please, 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 by mid-December will be huge. Yes. Debbie asked about the PowerPoint presentations from the sessions. They will be online. The general sessions were recorded, so we'll have those up. Give us a little bit of time to get back and get all those up and get some stuff edited, but we'll have all that done certainly no later than mid-December as well. So we want to make sure that information is out there for everybody, because there was lots of good sessions and lots of good information. So finally, one of the things that we heard from Roy was how young people find their motivation, and that really resonates with us at RITEC. We hope that we helped you find your motivation at this conference. So please take your information, have a safe journey as you go. So if you will stand, we will now, the Young Marines Color Guard will now retire the colors for the 2015 RHY Grantee Conference. Pledge allegiance, side. Pledge allegiance. Time comes. Young Marines Color Guard is part of the Orleans Parish chapter. The mission of the Young Marines is to positively impact America's future by providing quality development programs for boys and girls that nurtures and develops its members into responsible citizens who enjoy and promote a healthy, drug-free lifestyle. Round of applause for them. Thank you, and safe journeys to everyone as